In the previous episode, we discussed the first two entries in the series, Arena and Daggerfall. You won't find many willing to disagree when it is said that Daggerfall is Arena but better, and despite my jest and straying goat metaphors, Daggerfall more or less provided a compelling RPG experience for 1996 PC gamers. Despite the technological limitations of the time, the game was able to create one of the biggest open worlds in gaming, even to this very day. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean jack, since the content was spread about as thin as a voice talent in oblivion. But even though it may not be the most detailed map, you'll sure as hell want to stock up on some biscuit wafers and water balls if you're planning on foregoing the fast travel system. But now it's time to take a look at the series' third installment, The Elder Scrolls III Morrowind. The game has been a divisive one over the years, but the general consensus of Morrowind in gaming culture for a while has been quite positive. In fact, I'd even say the RPG gaming hipsters have gone so far with the Morrowind best game ever thing that it has retroactively become hipstery not to consider Morrowind the best in the series. Whether this is a result of the game actually being a truly great Western CRPG, or just blind nostalgia and fanboyism is yet to be decided. The production of Morrowind was more or less kicked off immediately after Redguard was released, as Redguard was sort of the rickety, sewage-encrusted, terrible bridge connecting the gap between Daggerfall and Morrowind. According to interviews, the production of Morrowind technically began after the release of Daggerfall, but halted when the team decided that they weren't quite ready to take on such a massive project at the time. We can find evidence from early pre-release interviews on how the team was focused from the beginning on making the game a much more open, detailed experience. Our Lord and Savior Todd Howard stating that his first and foremost objective was for the game to feel like an epic adventure, citing the revamping of fast travel and the addition of random encounters as steps towards achieving this. They pretty much reworked every aspect of the game, and thank God. I didn't give much of my time to the first two, but I can imagine the spellcasting system involving a copy protection code, 2 weeks of training, and at least 5 lizard hearts. When asked after the release of Morrowind how he felt the game held up against Daggerfall, Douglas Goodall, snide jackass and former developer at Bethesda Software, stated that Morrowind was a completely different beast from Daggerfall, and the two weren't even directly comparable. Although the two both consist very much of walking long distances and smacking rats with swords, you can sort of see where he's coming from, and we haven't even started up the game yet. The development team had stated before release that the game would be less main questline centric, even stating the game could be completed without even touching the main quest.
A spicy proposition, to say the least.
And I guess that's theoretically possible. You can just sprint over to Red Mountain and fight the final boss whenever you feel like it, but that does not mean it's at all plausible as a regular playthrough.
Alright, enough talk. Let's pop this bad boy in.
Turn this guy on. There we go.
Oh, sexy.
Alright.
What the balls?
Oh, I probably have to put the AV guys in.
Ah, what is this? Oh, is it green? These two... Oh, come on! Forget it, no sound. Sound's overrated. There we go. Ah, yeah, there we go. Y'all ready for some sweet Morrowind action?
Morrowind is one of those games where, no matter how old it gets, it still looks f***ing awesome. I mean, sure, it looks awful, the people all look like hideous beef jerky monsters and the rest of the models look like jagged ass, but this aesthetic just doesn't get old. This world inspired by Egyptian and Middle Eastern culture is so unique and alien it just begs to be explored and learned about. It makes you want to actually ask every copy and pasted beef jerky creature what they know about the entire history of Vardenfell. It's easily the most interesting of the big three, or at least the most unique. The character creation process has been simplified enough to make character building a less sweaty process, but not so much as to be considered dumbed down by your dad in his 90s plane simulators. Look at this garbage. What the hell is impish? Does this factor into your naughtiness attribute? Do you get shorter as you level it? Does raising it enough turn you into a flying goblin? You also get to design your character's appearance, which means you get to pick from about 8 different terrifying heads corresponding to your sex and race. We can see some of the series' original artistic integrity in decline from pretty early on, once we notice that the game is now completely devoid of boobs. This may seem trivial, but the past 2 installments have shown zero lack of this feature, and its absence is noticeable and disappointing. To this day, we have yet to see a single Wang featured in the Elder Scrolls series. Bethesda has yet to comment on this, so fans of the games can only assume that this is emblematic of Bethesda's hatred towards men. There's really no way to screw up your character to the point where the game is near unplayable, but if you try to do something stupid like making a stealthy high elf with the apprentice sign, then you're going to have a bad time. It's not like Skyrim, where you can just play as an orc because you like orcs and become a stealthy archer like every Skyrim playthrough ever. The first time you create a character, you'll probably have no f***ing idea what you're supposed to be going with. Which playstyles are viable? If I pick spears as a major skill, how many spears am I going to find? Would it be fun to spec as a ninja and run around throwing shuriken at people in Dark Brotherhood gear? Well, clench your butt and hope for the best, because you probably won't figure out if your build is complete dog shit until you unwittingly enter into a worm eating contest, but you unfortunately invested all of your time into leveling your sandcastle building skills. The game does a fantastic job about submerging you into everything. A lot of people criticize Morrowind for starting out too slow, but I've always been fond of a game that paces itself well. Several hours into Skyrim and you're the chosen one. In Oblivion, you're an essential part in a divine quest to save the world before you even exit the tutorial, but in Morrowind, you'll be stabbing mud crabs with a rusty butter knife.
And you're going to like it.
There is a very well-defined, consistent sense of progression in Morrowind, and it makes the experience so much more fulfilling in the long run. This is one of the many advantages that Morrowind holds over Oblivion and Skyrim, lacking the system of enemy scaling that those two were weighed down by. You see yourself transform from the Outlander fresh off the boat, shinking Kwama for spare change, to a golden god that can leap between cities and demolish entire armies with a single massive lightning fart. You will damn well appreciate that new set of armor you earned after you hightailed across the world to clear out another dungeon full of rat bastard bandits. So help me God, if I run into another mage that spams god level lightning bolts on me, I will run back and drag asshat Fantabulous out here to deal with this shit himself. And trust me when I tell you that just because it takes 20 minutes to get from one city to another does not mean we have another Daggerfall tier world map on our hands. Oh god, no. If you get a mod to increase the draw distance past Silent Hill levels, you can literally see Vivek from Balmora. It is not a huge map by any definition, but slow walk speeds, good world design, and density of content make Morrowind feel much bigger than it really is. You see, that sounds like a positive statement, but it's not. Because moving at the speed of Final Fantasy XIII's story until you get to level 20 makes me want to kiss Todd Howard on his sweet handsome lips. You know, Morrowind really doesn't have to be 120 hours long. It really doesn't. Over the course of playing through this time sink for this video, I spent God knows how many hours walking back and forth to Balmora, unloading throwing stars in Revere and collecting mushrooms and flowers for that swit in the basement of the Mages Guild that could have been spent pouring water on myself and kissing girls on the mouth. It's not even like Final Fantasy, where taking out the grind would turn the game into Dark Void. There's so much juicy content in there, and making me crawl on all fours for it just makes sure that I'll consume less of it. Did I mention that this game is juicy? It is juicy. Just in the starting area alone, there's like 5 or 80 things you can do to scrounge up some pocket change to pay for a hit of that skooma pipe when you get to Balmora.
Pilgrim.
And when you do eventually get to Caius Cosatus, the game does pretty much the best thing an RPG can do. Caius straight up tells you to go out, buy some armor, do some odd jobs, and familiarize yourself with the world. Oh my god, I'm crying. Do you have any idea how rare it is to see this in RPGs? Play just about any other game like this, and the main quest is like,
Chosen One! Thank God you're here! You need to get down to Caldera this instant and touch this super important dude, and then after that you need to bring me 18 baboon hides! Hurry!
This is so important, at least for me. I love it when the game I'm playing actually gives me an excuse to just screw around for a bit. It really adds to the experience and motivates you to immerse yourself in the world. Super Bunny Hop touches on this in his fantastic video analyzing the differences between the main quests of Morrowind and Skyrim. I highly recommend watching it if you're at all interested. The absence of map markers and such forces you to pay attention to the people you talk to. It forces you to examine your surroundings and become familiar with your environment, and this causes you to naturally and easily soak up the world without without even realizing it. This is pure genius. There are so many modern games where it feels like I'm just passively drifting through the experience, like I'm not fully comprehending anything that's actually going on. When I finished my first playthrough of The Witcher 3 last year, I felt like I almost owed it to the game to replay it on the hardest difficulty and with the minimap off. I just had this feeling that I hadn't really soaked it in enough, like I was never fully invested in the game. I just didn't feel connected. I feel this way about the majority of games I play, actually. With Morrowind, this thought did not even cross my mind until I'd started writing this paragraph. Finding your way to the ancestral tomb east of the city you're in, through the Foyada and west of the signposts at the Fork isn't effortless, but getting the full Morrowind experience requires almost zero effort on the part of the player beyond simply playing the game. The Wikipedia-linked style of dialogue in this game seems fine at first. After all, the dialogue is very information-based, and it makes it easier to learn about stuff, but it just feels very stiff. Everybody and their mom knows the entire history of the city they live in, the customs of every clan and house in the continent, and the exact location of every notable figure in the city. It's not diegetic, and it makes me cry. I very much believe that the dialogue tree system we got in the later games was far superior. Not perfect by any means, it still feels like you're interrogating people rather than having a conversation with them.
Yes, I just bought a new entertainment system for my living room. Tell me more about your new entertainment system. It's really nice, it's got Bang & Olufsen speakers. Tell me more about speakers. They're the things that audible sound comes out of. Tell me more about audible sound. It's an oscillation of pressure transmitted through a medium and composed of frequencies within the range of hearing.
But it does feel a lot more natural. Morrowind has the same terrible combat system as Daggerfall, possibly even worse. Besides how you will now land about 1 in 20 hits instead of 1 in 4, there's pretty much zero difference in the fundamental mechanics besides the way it's controlled and the way shields work. Instead of simply adding on to your armor rating, your character now can actually block blows with a shield, but only if they feel like it. I haven't had any advanced combat training or anything like that, but it does not take an adept understanding of swordsmanship to understand that if somebody's trying to hurt you with a sharp object, it's usually a good idea to put your shield between them and you. But what do I know? Despite Morrowind lacking definition in some places, the little things it consistently excels at carry it a long way where its gameplay sometimes fails. When you play it for the first time, you think,
This combat is slowly making me appreciate life less. Why would I ever subject myself to this?
but then you keep going because something keeps you. Morrowind may lack some things as a game, but it's a damn good experience. It is by far the most distinguished entry in the series, being an entirely unique, fulfilling experience that actively encourages curiosity and adventure. We don't even have to treat Morrowind like the paraplegic leper of the series. Aside from some outdated combat and general oldness, the game has successfully maintained the appeal it had back when it was released. Are people only saying Morrowind is the best in the series because of nostalgia, or a desire to seem intelligent to their peers? I don't think so. It's quite apparent that the last few Elder Scrolls titles have failed to deliver to this niche that appreciates the system of progression and integration of lore that was ever so present in Morrowind. Morrowind successfully created one of the most unique experiences in gaming. It gives you the opportunity to completely immerse yourself in this crazy alien world that you know nothing about, and there is so much to discover. Morrowind does not need to tempt you with the promise of rewards to get you to seek out information on the world. You just go out and do what you feel like doing, because Morrowind is cool as fuck.